How you guys doing? This is Neil from masterpaintingnow.com, one of the top art instructors on Udemy with over 80,000 students now. I've been working on my new course, which is a anatomy crash course for the human figure. In this lesson, I want to show you some really cool tips, tricks, and/or a set of knowledge that will help you draw foreshortened legs like this from any position that you're either looking at or that you can imagine drawing from imagination. And so the first piece of knowledge and trick is to think about the pose from a side view. So let's say we're drawing somebody sitting down, right? So we have a chair here. Let's change this color. Something like this, right? Basic chair shape. And you have the buttocks here, right? We have the thigh coming out like this. And let's say the knee. The knee's going to be down just a little bit. And so we can have it straight come out. We're going to have it come down just a little bit like this. That's the knee area. Right, so we're going to attach the leg muscles to that like this. And then we'll have the calf muscle coming down like this, and then the foot, right? So this will be from the side view. I'm not going to draw the whole figure, but it's like that. Now you want to think about, well, if I might have that leg a little bit long. If we saw, actually, it might be fine. If we saw this from the front view, what would that look like? Well, we can draw the top of the leg, draw a line coming out, and from the bottom of the knee, draw a line coming out. So we know that if we draw this, then this is what we have to see from the front view, right? So the leg, I have to fit it within this. So I know the knee, boom, the knee has to be the same size, has to fit within here. Let's say I have one knee there and I have one knee just a little bit higher like this, just to offset it a little bit. But I know I have to have my knees like that, right? And then I know this top part has to be where my thighs are. So it has to be foreshortened, it has to come like this, right? So I have to be able to see that foreshortened part. And then I have the other thigh muscle here, right? So I have to be able to see the cylinders like that, and they're coming forward. So you can think about the legs as basic shapes, in this case as basic cylinders. And when something comes toward you, it gets foreshortened, right? Now if the leg were facing directly straight on, I would see the knee like this, and then I would see the thigh. And there's more thigh on the top than there is on the bottom, right? Because the knee is always kind of down below, but it'd be more like that, right? So I'd be seeing more of the thigh. The under part here is not as big as the top part from that front view. So it's not quite the leg's not quite a cone, because if I saw a cone facing directly at me, let's say this is my cone, I have a little cut off the top of the cone like that, and then I have the bottom of the cone. If that were facing directly at me, I would see that round part, and then I would see the back part, because the front of the cone is thinner and smaller than the back. So if it was facing me, the only way I'd be able to tell this was a cone would be by the shading. I'd have to be able to see, light hitting it, right, to be able to tell that's a cone coming at me. So hopefully that makes sense. Basics of foreshortening. I actually go through this. A lot of these are basic fundamental principles of drawing, and I go through that in my course, the fundamentals of drawing. So definitely check that out. But just think about that when things come toward. So when any object moves away from you or towards you, it is foreshortened. What does that mean? It means it appears shorter than what the actual object is. So if we had just a random object, let's say we had an object, a cylinder like this. If that's the actual length of the cylinder when we view it from the parallel to our eyes, or perpendicular to our eyes, so our eyes are looking this way at it, and this object is like this, that's perpendicular to each other, right? Perpendicular means like that, like 90-degree angle. Parallel would be like this. Okay, so we're looking at it and we see it at its true length. That's its actual length. Let's say the length is 1 foot. So we see it at its true length, which is 1 foot. As we start to either tilt this object away from us or tilt it toward us, the object becomes shorter or longer. Let me show you what that looks like instead of drawing it. Right, so let's say that this cylinder is 1 foot long. As it tilts toward us, it starts to get shorter. Let me go ahead and put it right in the center of the screen, or the center of its screen. Right, so as it tilts toward us, it starts to get shorter. And we also start to see the top plane. We know the top plane is technically a circle, but circles look like ellipses when they're viewed like this because they're being foreshortened. As it gets toward us, the circle starts to look more like a circle, right? Less oval and more circle-ish, and the overall height of this object gets shorter. And as it continues to come toward us, it looks more and more like a circle, and the object from, now this right here isn't including in the height, right? From here to here is the height. We don't include this circle part. So look how much shorter it looks. And as it continues to come toward us, look how short it looks now. Now it's almost non-existent. We almost just see a perfect circle. We don't see, the black part is the part of the object. See that? We hardly see it at all. Look how short it looks. It used to be like several inches. Now it's not even an inch. And finally, when it's directly at us, we just see the circle. You can do this with a soda can, a pipe, anything that's cylinder, and or any shape at all. But try it with a cylinder. You can see with it that this is true. This works in real life. This is modeled off a real life perspective how reality works. As it moves away from us, same thing happens, but we start to see the bottom circle and the top is moving away from us. And what happens as it moves away from us? It gets shorter, right? So same thing is true. Like, what if it were a leg or something like that? And that same thing is true. Think about the objects as their basic shapes, and you can see them as they move toward us or away from us, they get shorter or they get longer. And so when a woman is seated and the leg is coming toward us, it's getting foreshortened, which is why it looks so short from that point of view. So let's see what that looks like really quick. This is DAZ Studio free program. Let me see. Hold on. Do I have to go taunt? That's weird. Usually it doesn't look like this. Oh, because I'm not in smart content. There we go. That's weird. How come it's not? Oh, I know why. It's because I had that object selected. All right, go to figures. We can just go to the base figure, or we can go to this. You have to pay for this one. I think it's like $20. Or you can just go to the base figure, which is that comes with the software, which is this. I don't think I ever showed this, so I'm gonna go ahead and show you what it looks like. This is the base figure that comes with the software, and we'll see it from the front view. So when she is like this, we see the true length, right? This is perpendicular to our eyes. So we see it front facing. So all the limbs right now are facing directly, even though these are at an angle, we're still seeing the full length. So we're seeing the full length of the arm, full length of the torso, full length of everything, right? But what if I'm looking for posing, there we go. I'm not used to seeing this little of the screen because I don't use it on this screen. It's making everything quite small. Torso, what if, do a hip bend. What if she starts coming toward us? Look what happens to the torso. So if you imagine the whole entire torso as a basic cylinder, well, it starts to get shorter. But what happens? We start to see the top of this shape, right? Which is this kind of oval shape here. We start to see the top, and when it comes straight at us like this, now we see this top part, right? Because this isn't a cylinder, it's more like a cylinder that's been flattened. So we see this top oval shape now perfectly, but now we don't see the side plane at all because just that's facing us. We do see the breast sticking down, but that's forms on top of forms. But if you imagine without the breast, just that cylinder as it comes toward us, it gets shorter and shorter. If it goes away from us, the same thing happens, right? It starts to get foreshortened. The leg, as the leg bends up, what happens? It starts to get foreshortened. So you can see there, as it comes up toward us, it gets shorter from here to here. And then as it gets all the way up, you can see it gets totally foreshortened. Now let's go ahead and take this leg and bend it down so we can see as if they were seated. Let's go and get closer. We can actually see this more. Right, and if I kind of change the angle, right now the horizon line is, the eye line is, it's not the back of this, it's close to that, but don't think about that as the eye line because that's not what that's representing. But the eye line is close to that, it's usually a little bit above there, a little bit below it. And so we're seeing it, right here, the eye line is right here now, right? Boom, like right here. And because the eye line is right here, we're not seeing hardly any of that thigh. Let's go ahead and select the thigh again. If I go up a little bit like that, you start to see some of the underside, right? Because now it's coming toward us again. We're starting to get closer to the full length again. If we come down a little bit, now if we can also change the angle of the camera. What if we're looking down at this more? If we're looking down at this more, we can see more of this top plane, so it's less foreshortened, right? So you got to think about what's the angle of the object to you, and that will help you kind of figure out how to do it. One other thing I wanted to show really quickly here before we move on to drawing, or back to drawing, is what if this person were kind of sideways to me like this? We still see the full length of the leg, but what if we put the leg out like this, and then we can kind of twist it toward us like they're kicking. We'll bend this leg a little bit like that. See, now the leg is this part, this leg is now coming toward us. And because it's coming toward us, it's being foreshortened, it's not as long. If I twist this even more upwards, you see that? That leg, see how this, the lower part, the calf, watch how foreshortened it gets. As it comes toward us, that object gets shorter and shorter and shorter until all we see is like overlapping forms. Now all we see is like the overlapping form of the calf and the foot overlapping it, right? So that's another form of, another thing that happens in foreshortening is one object overlaps another object. We don't see all of the object because it's being overlapped. And this part of the leg here, we can see is pretty much parallel with their body, so we're seeing the full length of it. But what if this were also coming toward us, right? So let's go like this. It also gets foreshortened, see? And then let's kind of view it from an angle like that. I'm going to put this leg out more so we can kind of see this part right here. I want to show the foreshortening of this right here. So as it comes toward us, right, as if she's doing the splits, that part of the leg gets foreshortened too. So if you're going to draw someone doing a kick, like coming toward the camera a little bit, you got to think about it. Is the leg like totally perpendicular like this? So is she like this, where the leg is straight, or is the leg a little bit this way? Or is the leg, you know, that's like getting cocked for a kick, or is it already coming out this way because she's starting to already do the kick? And if it's this way, then we have to foreshorten the thigh and we have to foreshorten the calf, right? So everything is being foreshortened. This part of the leg is being foreshortened, but they're being foreshortened differently. So think about them as different shapes being foreshortened coming at us. And the foot too, if the foot were more pointed toward us, it gets foreshortened. If it's pointing away from us, it gets foreshortened. Only if it's straight like that, so now we know the leg is based at a 90-degree angle to this. The foot is at a 90-degree angle to the lower leg, let's call it the lower leg. Technically, this is called the leg and this is called the thigh, just so you know. So when you get a leg of a chicken, this is the leg. When you get the thigh of a chicken, this is the thigh. So I know we just call this whole thing a leg, but technically this is leg, this is thigh. Anyway, so if it's at a 90-degree to the leg, to this lower part, the calf, then it looks like that. But if it's going away from us, you can see now it's not at a 90-degree angle. If it's coming toward us, it's no longer at a 90-degree angle, and that makes the foot get foreshortened, right? So you got to think about every object that way. Is that individual object, that part of the body, is it straight on with me, or is it going away or toward me? And that's how you determine something being foreshortened. Okay. Actually, let's go ahead and just get rid of this and move it over here. Don't need it anymore. So back to our drawing here. So I will be going through this, doing much more detailed drawings, although I draw it ahead of time and then I go back and narrate over it so I can pause it and talk about different things without the video being like overly long. Like this video is gonna be a lot longer. So if you want to get a feel for my how my courses feel, some of the lessons are free on Udemy. I also might post one here soon for this course so you can kind of get a feel for how it is. So if I draw the upper part of the torso here, like that, and then we'll draw the rib cage. And we're also seeing part of the, that's probably a little bit too tall. Just think about the shoulder kind of coming up like this, the arm kind of swooping down, and then we'll have kind of an angle like this, and this arm will kind of be back like that. We kind of tilt that whole body out that way a little bit. So this breast will be kind of tilted that way a little bit. And this one, we're kind of seeing a little bit of the side plane a little bit, boom, like that, kind of a tilt like this. Tilt like that, we can have the neck kind of coming this way, and then the head will be somewhere like that. You get the idea. And we might be able to see some of the arm back like this, boom, like that. Okay. And the belly button would be somewhere right about here. Do you remember how to place the belly button? So where you have this bend right here, that bend, that marks the difference between where the ribs stop and the hips start. And that's where you have your, what's that muscle called? Well, we'll just call it the love handles. That's how most people know it. It's technically part of your obliques, but so you have the love handle here, and it comes and attaches to the hip right here like that, boom. And this is where the hip bone starts, right? You have that, it kind of goes back and around, but we're just going to draw this front part. The hip kind of goes like that and it comes down, right? So that iliac line and part of the iliac crest, that's where the love handle attaches to, right? Right where you have that hip bone. Well, that love handle, where it goes from the hip up to, so if you imagine a rib cage, you have the rib cage here, then you have the hip here, like this, right? This is the hip, the pelvis. From the top of the pelvis to the top of the rib cage, or the bottom of the rib cage, that's where the love handle, that's where that love handle, it fills in that gap. For a female, it's larger. For a male, this is a little bit closer together. So if you have a male rib cage and pelvis, that's the love handles are like this, right there, boom. And you have the pelvis coming like that. Right between, the halfway mark between is where the belly button is. So that's how you find the belly button on a female. Really cool trick. So if you can see the belly button in a reference model, you know now that about halfway above and below that, you can see where the love handles are. And so if you can see the belly button, and then most likely you're going to be able to see on one side or the other, you'll be able to see this crease. So you'll be able to see where the ribs end and where the hips begin, or at least the love handle begins, right? You'll be able to see that mark, and then you see the belly button. So you just take that length and make that length down. Now you know where the hips begin, in case you can't see the hips because there's too much fat on the model, whatever the case might be. Right, so this would be, very basic seated position. And then as they come down, you got to think about some of the anatomy. You'd have some of the glute muscles come out and around, and the thigh isn't totally round like this. It kind of has, from the front view, the thigh has a shape kind of like this more. I'm exaggerating. And then they have the underpart. So this is the basic shape of the thigh. And then right here you have this kind of triangle shape like this. And there's this kind of indent right there, kind of has a slight indent like this. That's basically from the front view. If I were to take the leg that's facing at us and just cut off part of the leg. So if I were to cut off the leg like right here, I cut that, and all we have is this part right here left, right? And I look straight at it, the bone would be somewhere, I think it's like here or so, right? The femur bone. So that's what it would look like. We're looking straight at it like that. Does that make sense? Hopefully. And I'm exaggerating the shape, but this is basically the shape that we'd see. So and I go through all this in my anatomy course, and I'm really going through this really a lot in my crash course for anatomy. Come up, so we have that kind of shape coming up here, and coming down, it kind of swoops in and kind of has that inner shape like that. And it kind of rounds on this side. And then it kind of turns into, these shapes kind of fold together. The fold probably stops somewhere right about there into the buttocks. And then to the side, the vastus lateralis muscle here. Like that. Then we have the knee, which is actually a lot smaller than this section here. Right, you have part of the patella and then part of that ligament that comes down and attaches to the tibia. We kind of just draw that base shape right there. Then you have all this set of tendons on the inside, which is mainly from the IT band. And then on the outside, we have a much bigger bulge right here, because this is where you have the sartorius, which kind of comes like this and comes around, right? Well, actually, it kind of comes over. Oh, my bad. It doesn't go on the outside. My brain is backwards right now. The sartorius comes across here and attaches here. This bulge here is from the tendons mainly of the sartorius and of the gracilis, and then also some of the biceps of the leg kind of attach in there, and that's what creates that bulge. This bulge is from the IT band. So the outside, you have the IT band coming here, and you have that tendon coming down for the IT band. So it kind of overlaps this shape. So see, like a really good thing with foreshortening, I'm going to kind of zoom in a little bit so we can see what we're drawing better. So what happens, let's kind of erase some of this and kind of redraw it so we can kind of see what we're doing. So I'm drawing this shape right here, right? This is the rectus femoris right here. That's the rectus femoris, which kind of has fibers like this. Right, so that's the rectus femoris. Over here we have the vastus lateralis, which connects over here to the side of the leg. Well, more like right about here, actually. Not all the way back to the butt. So let me redo that. You have like where the main bone is right here. Because remember, it attaches up here, and then it kind of comes out like this, and then it comes out this way. Right, that's the femur. So right here, the vastus lateralis will go like that. And then the vastus medialis attaches to the knee, and it comes like this right here. Then you have some of the adductor right there. Right, so that's all being foreshortened, but you get the idea. That's the greater anyway, that's known as the greater trochanter right here. That part of the femur bone that sticks out right there, that rounded part. Okay, so understanding the anatomy helps us understand why we have these shapes. That's how I know that I get that shape right there. And then this comes down to that shape, which is the adductors on the inside of the leg. And then between here, because this fits into between the sartorius and the TFL, which goes that side, which creates this kind of V shape. And that sartorius would come, across and attaches the inside of the leg here, like that. So I know that's going to create this lump right here. So I have this lump right here, boom, like that. So that's how I know I get those shapes. It's from the anatomy. Anatomy is extremely important. Highly recommend to learn it. Whether you learn it on your own or you learn it through my course, doesn't matter, just learn it. A lot of people like how I teach, so I think that's why I have 80,000 students. So we're going to do the same thing on this side. Let's kind of erase some of that base shape here. Remember this top part here, we know this is going to be the peak, right? Because that's where that rectus femoris, right, sits on. So if you imagine you have more of a basic tube, well, on that tube we have different muscles, right? So we have the rectus femoris that sits on there, kind of comes up. Then you have these adductors that kind of come up. That's what gives us that shape. So from the front view, you have the leg coming down like this, right? The knee. You have the sartorius like that. Boom, you have the vastus medialis that kind of covers it. Then you have the rectus femoris, one like this, rectus femoris like this. Remember, all this kind of comes at an angle too. And this over here is the adductor group, like that. Then you have the rectus femoris, and you have the vastus lateralis, which starts higher, like that, right? So that's the basic shapes. And this part here, it sticks up more, right? Because it has and this right here comes out like that. So that's what gives us that shape from this angle. Hopefully that makes sense. I go through all this in great detail in my anatomy course, but right, so we're going to kind of form that shape like that, come around right here. Then we're going to have part of that leg, right? So this is still part of that leg fold bend between the hip and where the leg muscles kind of come up to. There's that shape. I talk about this in another free course, I believe, where you have this kind of shape for the hip here. The legs don't start way up here, right? The leg muscles start more here. So you have this kind of like this kind of in between shape like that. So the legs kind of come out and start here. There's that little bit of difference between the iliac crest, and there's this little shape in between there. And this is where the leg fold happens right here. Hopefully that makes sense. And then you go into the buttocks, right? So we're going to see some of the side of the buttocks here. And the buttocks start to wrap underneath, but then the thigh, the vastus lateralis, the side muscle here, it starts to blend into that. So now you have the blending of forms right there, right? Then you're going to have kind of a repeat of the same thing, but from this side, we're kind of seeing the side of the leg here. You can kind of see it over here too. You can kind of show the side plane. But over here, it's more like if the light's coming from that direction more, this side would be more in shadow, so we kind of see it more. You can kind of see the side plane right here more. And I'm going to kind of do the top. It's a basic shape for the knee here. We'll have that kind of shin bone come in like that. I'm going to kind of do the fat tissue like this for this inside of the leg here. And then the outside will have this kind of, like I said, that kind of shape right here. We need to kind of actually give some space for the knee, and like that, we're kind of show that those tendons, the IT band tendons coming down, and it overlaps. Notice how this shape, and this is all side plane. Notice how this is overlapping this, because this form here is coming in front of this form here, right? And then you have this form here is coming in front of this form back here, which is part of our calf muscle, like that. So it's overlapping both. Love handle then forms into the leg and butt muscle. Remember, the widest part of the female figure, and this is also true of sitting down, is at the crotch. The crotch is right here. That's the widest part of the female. So that's why I come out wide and then I start to come in. So even though it's all being foreshortened, it still holds true that that's the widest part. I don't know why I drew after I made that line. Right, so then you can start adding some. If you wanted to start adding some anatomy to this, you could. Thinking about the deltoid, like that. Boom, tricep, bicep here. And then at the side, you have this kind of, depends what side the thumb, say the thumb's on this side, then you have that brachioradialis, which comes off here from the side, but it comes over to the thumb side, right? So it kind of comes over like that to the thumb side. It has that kind of shape right here. Anyway, just showing you the basic idea there. I'm not going to draw all the anatomy though. I just want to show that's kind of the shapes you would see. All right, now we know that the lower part of the leg something like that. Okay. This lower part of the leg, or just the leg, right? We drew the thigh, now we're drawing the leg. Remember, the leg is the lower part. It's going to be at its full length. So we know it's going to be longer than this. Be about right about here, right? So it's going to be at the full length because we're seeing it straight on. Or maybe if this leg is kind of coming toward us a little bit, it might, be a little bit foreshortened. So remember, from the inside, this muscle comes down lower than the knee, right? Where that attaches. So anatomy-wise, this attaches like right here. Now, this is the bundle of tendons from the sartorius and gracilis and the bicep of the leg. And that's why the calf muscle, and I'm going to kind of draw this coming down to where I want the foot to be. Say the foot's be somewhere around here. The calf muscle then goes like that. And remember, there's an angle here. So the widest part of the calf muscle is down here, whereas up on this side, I've kind of made that too big. It's smaller on this side, like that. And so we're going to draw the calf muscle coming behind it. The widest part starts higher because I have this angle here, and then comes down like this. So that's what creates that shape, and you have this angle. This is the inside of the shin bone. I often draw this line. It's a good line to draw. Then you'd have, you wouldn't want to draw this line, but you can actually show that with, depending on the angle of the light, you can shade that whole shape here as a form. Then you'd have some shadow behind here to kind of show that, not with a line. And then opposite of that is your ankles. So that's how I memorize it. I just go opposite of this angle. So this angle is easy to memorize. Just put it to memory that inside calf muscle, one way to memorize that is the sartorius muscle comes all the way down past the knee. And because of that, the calf muscle starts lower, whereas on this side, it's higher. There's an angle here. And so the calf muscle starts higher. However you need to memorize that, just memorize this angle here. And then, so this has to be opposite. So the inner ankle is higher. You don't have to memorize that the inner ankle is higher. Just memorize this and that this is opposite. So once you have this down, just go, okay, opposite of that, I got my ankles. I'm going to have the foot kind of coming at us like this. And you have an angle like that because of the toes. Something like that. And I like to do this shape right here to kind of just show that three-dimensional shape. And then we can just add the big toe here like this. And then the little toes like that. And then we can have the undersides of the toes because it's kind of facing us. We'll kind of put that in shadow. The other foot's going to kind of just go off behind like this. And I'll be able to see a little bit of that ankle here, and then the foot. And the calf muscle is going to be pretty much hidden. Redraw that line.
Okay. Refunding everyone for the start.
Make sure the calves are kind of, this calf is a lot bigger. So I kind of want to show that, I guess, by having a little gap in there. I kind of have to make this one a little bit bigger now. I can make that one smaller, this one bigger. I gotta make them kind of match more, so let's just make it a little bit bigger. Like so. All right, so, and that's what we get, that's the overall shape. But notice I started from the hips, or I started from the legs, and then I built off of that, right? So once you have a good feeling or understanding of proportions, you can start from anywhere. You can start from the breast and then build off of that. You can start from the belly button and build out from that. You know, you can really start from anywhere in the body and build out from that because you have a good understanding of the proportions. So proportions are really good to understand. So this first trick I really wanted to show was that you think about the side view, or you can even draw the side view and then draw lines coming off. You know that the leg has to fit from the front view. The leg has to fit from here, right? So if the side view, let's just do a little sketch over here. Tiny little. Here's the hips. What if the leg were coming down more like this? This is where the knee's at, right? The leg were coming down like that. Then you'd have parallel lines coming off like this and like that. So now from the front view, it'd be far less foreshortened, right? You'd have this basic shape like this. See how much less that's foreshortened? And so now you would have, you know, the buttocks is somewhere right here. And so you'd have it come down like that for the buttocks. I'm going to kind of just boom like that. Right, just a basic idea here. Maybe this leg is coming off this way and that leg's coming off that way and the feet are like this. Right, so it's less foreshortened because the legs are coming down like that. So you got to think about how they're sitting and then do the legs accordingly. So another thing we can do is we can take this. Let's go ahead and I'm going to get rid of this for now. We don't need it anymore. Make a copy of this. By the way, the software I'm using, I get this question all the time whenever I do videos. So this software I'm using right now is called PaintStorm. It's $20. You own it for life, free updates, amazing software, totally worth $20. It's better than Photoshop for me for painting and sketching and stuff. The pencil is just amazing. So I highly recommend trying the software. And if you want to learn how to use it, I have a free course on Udemy that shows you how to use the entire software, everything, the face interface, all the brushes and stuff, how to change them. Really cool. And it's free, by the way, free course. So check out free course PaintStorm on Udemy. I'm the only one that has one. The company actually came to me and asked me to make a course for them. And I also have another course showing you how to paint with PaintStorm. That one's a paid course, and also that course will be available on PaintStorm's website soon. All right, so let's take a copy of this, which is this little icon right here. You click that, it makes a copy. And we're going to bring this over here to the center, kind of. And we'll bring that one over there out of our way. All right, cool. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to erase. Let's kind of zoom in a little bit here. There we go. Erase all of this right here. Okay, so imagine this is coming down the widest part and then the buttocks, right, where they're sitting. So we'll kind of just more of a flat line like that. That's kind of where the person's sitting down. We'll kind of imagine this coming down like this. He's really thick, Well, imagine this coming down like that. By thick, I mean fat. Well, she's not fat as in, she has a lot of fat here. All right, so let's think about how the legs attach. So you have these kind of oval shapes right here, right? Think about a G.I. Joe character. For those that remember those. Do they still sell G.I. Joe? I don't know. Like that, right? Now, technically, it's shaped more like this, you know. Oops. How's that? All right, shaped more like that. That's where the leg attaches. So think about where the leg attaches. And like I said, it's right there. So you have this space in between. So you have love handles, iliac crest. This space right here is like some extra space in between where the leg actually attaches and bends from. So then you just got to put the knees where you want them, and then just draw based on that. So draw the knees wherever you want. Let's draw one knee up here, for example. Her torso might be a little bit long. I don't know. Let's draw one knee right here. So I have a sketch I've already done like this. So we'll just add that knee right there. Boom. The other knee we'll add over here. Maybe we'll put it right. I'm trying to match it somewhat with the drawing I've done before, like that. That's where the two knees are going to be. Once you know where the knees are going to be, then you just got to think about how do the legs attach to those parts of the body. Well, we know we're going to have buttocks here, so we have the crotch and the butt. Remember, the buttock muscles come down lower, but they're being smashed because she's sitting on something, right? But we know that they come lower than the crotch line, right? Like that. So remember, the crotch is higher than the buttocks. So from the front view, if this is the crotch area, like that. From the back view, the buttocks are like that. They come down a little bit farther. All right, so far so good. And then we just let's draw this leg first. So let's just think about the basic shape first. Let's just kind of draw this shape like that, and we'll draw a tube. We're basically just drawing a tube, and it connects right here, remember? Like that, boom. So we're just gonna draw that basic tube shape, like so. We can start erasing some of this because we're drawing on top of all this. And then on top of that, we have our other shape here, right? Which is our knee. So we got to think about what's this leg doing. So is this leg kind of, let's say this leg's kind of coming out like this and then coming down like that, right? So now we have to think about our ankle area, which is somewhere around about here. And let's just kind of draw this tapered shape at first. So now we have this tapered shape. We'll add detail to it. Tapered shape first. Ankle part here. And we're going to bend down and we're going to attach the foot somewhere in here like this. Right, so that's the basic shapes. So stick with basic shapes first. Same thing here. So it's being foreshortened, so we know the leg we know it attaches like right about here. So you just take that attachment and come up like that. See, boom, come up to the knee, and then we know here because the buttocks, right, the leg sits in front of the buttocks. So you have the buttocks behind there a little bit, like that, and then kind of rolls into the buttocks. And then you got to think about what way is the knee facing. I'm gonna make the knee facing this way. In this case, I made the knee kind of straight in the center, right? This is gonna be off to the side a little bit, and I'm gonna have the leg kind of come down like this, and it's gonna be sitting on top of another block or something. And we have this inside shape. Again, think about anatomy. Let's not think about anatomy yet. Just do basic shapes here. Okay, so basic tube shape like that. I could even do a basic triangle even. All right, so now we got the basic shapes going on, and we can already start to see how this works. We go, okay, hey, you know what? I can start to see how this might work. Now I'm kind of getting rid of some of the detail. Now we can start adding some anatomy. So now we can go, okay, the knees here, so let's go ahead and add the top of the patella there, and it's going to come down like this, boom, and then to the part of the tibia. I'm going to draw a little bit of the side plane of this knee, like that. And then we're going to have the top muscle, right? Remember the ligament comes off of this, not ligament, tendon comes off of the knee, off the patella, and it goes into the rectus femoris, which is going to be kind of like this. Or just kind of make that shape like that. Boom. Now remember, from this inside we have this kind of like triangle shape right here. Remember that? So we have our bottom of the gracilis is probably right here, and it comes up like that. And part of the abductor creates this like tendon right here. Then we know we have the thigh muscle, which is coming here, and it's attaching like that. It's coming underneath the bicep. Then we have the fat, mostly fat tissue, and part of the butt muscle there. And you might be able to see this little indent like that. So often from the inside of the leg, you're going to get this shape right here because you have the rectus femoris. We're seeing part of that rectus femoris right there. And then we're seeing part of these adductor muscles. So that creates this like shape like that. Boom. And we're seeing the bottom part of that. And sometimes you might even be able to see, because we're showing the shadow between these two muscles, you'll be able to see this kind of like shape like that kind of tendon shape. And then we have, let's see, the inside, we have our sartorius bundle. It's the sartorius, like I said, it's the sartorius, gracilis, and bicep tendon, or the bicep tendons. It's semimembrosus, the other one. Anyway, that's its whole separate shape, right? So I'm gonna shade this as though this were its own separate shape from the knee, right? Like that. And then we have the calf muscle coming off of that. So remember, this comes down lower than the knee, attaches lower than the knee, this whole bundle. And I'm going to have the calf muscle coming off of that. So let's go ahead and add the calf muscle here. And we'll kind of coming down for the widest part. And we'll come in like so. The inside here, this is where we get that inner line. We're going to be see, well, the legs kind of turn to the side. We're seeing more of this side than we are of that side. It's being turned away from us. But we're still going to see a little bit of that calf muscle like that. And then coming in like this. We still see the angle here. And remember, that angle is opposite. So this ankle comes down a little bit lower. We're seeing less of it because the legs kind of turned a little bit. So we can see this. Now, see how just placing the knee just naturally made us foreshorten this leg? Because we have to attach it to the knee, right? So everything just naturally gets foreshortened. And this foot right here, we're going to have it coming out more at an angle, but straight at us. Almost straight at us. At a slight angle as well. So we're going to kind of just have the basic shape be like that. Slight angle to the toes. And then I might be able to see some of the heel back here because we are seeing it from, like I said, from a slight angle. And this is that inner, boom, let's see how this shape overlaps that shape. But from the side view, you kind of see that arch right there, right? But then you have the ankle, and you have that inner shape like this. Boom. So that shape is overlapping that shape. That's what I've done there. I'm going to kind of zoom in here so I can add some detail to the feet, just a little bit. So remember, I like to add this shape right here, boom, like that, to kind of show that three-dimensionality. And then here we can kind of show the basic shape of the big toe, kind of like this, and then kind of underneath. We'll add a little bit of that underplane. And then when I add that basic shape, and we kind of just lump these toes together. And I want to kind of add a little bit of a shape here for the bottom plane. So that's the part that's coming toward us, because the foot's being foreshortened, kind of coming toward us. But you see how once you have those basic shapes there, then it's just a matter of coming in with your anatomy. That's all it is, right? So once you have the base forms, then you just change those shapes a little bit with the anatomy knowledge. That, anatomy is what comes and gives you their ultimate final shapes. So let's go in this leg now. Let's see here. So we're going to have the buttocks kind of coming like this. And they're going to kind of form right into the thigh. And on this side over here, they're going to kind of come around like that. Kind of keep that open because we're going to be changing that. One thing we're going to be able to see is, remember, we have from the inside of the leg, as long as you can see the inside of the leg, side inside, the medial side. What I mean by that is if you have hips right here and you have your leg coming like this, you have the knee, then you have your lower leg, right? So the thigh. When we're viewing the thigh, we have the sartorius coming like this, right? So as long as we can see the inside of the leg here, then we can see this bump right here, which is the adductors. Then we can see this bump right here, which is the vastus medialis. Then we can see this lower part of the bump right here, which is part of the sartorius, which is going behind the vastus medialis. And so it creates this kind of 3 bumps right here. Sometimes, if the vastus medialis isn't that big, you'll just see this, and then you'll see this right here, just 2 bumps. On this side, you see part of the tendon here from the IT band, and then you see the outstretch of the vastus lateralis. And notice this is higher and this is lower. This comes down all the way down to here like that, and that stops there. That's why this calf muscle goes like this, and this calf muscle goes like that, and that gives you that angle. So understanding all that, I go, okay, I'm going to see part of the bend of the knee. I'm going to see like maybe part of the, like this, like let's say, this is not the knee, the part of the leg though, like that right there. I'm going to see part of that right there. And then we'll have part of the continuing this way, like that. So it's like it's being bent, but it's part of that that sartorius bundle I talk about. I'm just going to start calling it the sartorius bundle. It's that sartorius gracilis and all those tendons. That bundle right here I was talking about, right? So we're kind of seeing that from the inside here. We kind of see that shape right here, right? That's still there. And then we have the adductors, which is right here, separate from the buttocks, right? Inside the adductors, and then you have a little bit of the medialis on the inside there, right? So you kind of get those 3 bumps, 1, 2, 3, and then you have the buttocks. But just for the thigh, you have those 3 shapes. You might not want to have the third one if you don't want it there, but you need to have these though. This one here, separate from this one at least. You can group those together if you want, but there's going to be that change there, unless there's a lot of fat tissue. So if these are really, really thick thighs, there might be enough fat tissue to cover up, and then it'll just be one shape. So I'm going to leave it like that. I kind of like it like that. And then we're going to have our knee. We're seeing part of the patella stick out there. And then we have all these, tendons and stuff on the side, kind of creating this side shape like that. And then we're going to have the actual shape of the knee kind of like this, coming down where the tendon is. And we're going to have the inside shape like that. And we'll have the inside calf muscle come like this. Remember, you have the gastrocnemius behind, then coming in front of that technically is the soleus, like that, right? So if you wanted to show that kind of detail, you can have the gastrocnemius and then the soleus overlapping it and coming like that. So that creates this kind of shape like that. And then we'll have this outer muscle here that comes like that, mostly the tibius anterior. I think that's what it's called. And then here we're actually not seeing that. Part of the tibius anterior is like right here, and it goes like this. So we can see part of that muscle maybe. You can show that line. So between right there, that line will separate between the tibius anterior and the it's not coming to me readily available to my brain. What's that muscle called again? The fibularis. Yeah, the fibularis longus. So we're seeing part of that fibularis longus. We're actually not seeing from this front view, you rarely ever see the gastrocnemius from this side. This side you do, but this side, it's mostly always the fibularis longus, because that sets in front of, on the fibula side of the leg, so the lateral side of the leg, and it sets in front of the gastrocnemius. Anyway, you have the angle here, so you have the opposite angle there, so you know the inside is going to be the higher ankle, and the outside is going to be the lower ankle, right? So you can just kind of boom like this. Now I'm going to do basic shapes here for the feet. So going to bring this image back here. Kind of made that quite long, but actually, you know what? How long is this leg? You know what? See, okay, hold on. I got to kind of look. I'm too close. When you get too close like that, sometimes you can definitely draw it incorrectly. I think I'm too close, so I got to think about the length, you know. Maybe, let's see here. Is that about right? If you're ever in doubt, you can always measure with your fingers or onto the screen. That's about right. Or you can do an actual measurement where you draw a line on a separate layer like that and then move it. So if you draw a separate layer, draw a line like this, you can take that line and move it over here and edit, free transfer. This is a long way to do it, but you can, go, yeah, that looks pretty accurate. So cool. Cancel, delete, trash can. Okay, so that doesn't come out like that, and then I need to have the foot. I definitely drew it a lot higher. I drew this character different than I drew the other one. The other one had a shorter. Her torso is quite long here, but that's all right. We can still make do with this like that. Okay, so I'm gonna come back in now. I like to draw all the proportions and stuff further away, and then I can zoom in when I want to do the detail. I do want to show that little bit of change there between that muscle. I'm not gonna be able to see as much of that on this side. I kind of want to show this, that shape right there, that slight difference between the gastrocnemius and that's the gastrocnemius and then the soleus right here. Like that, just kind of. All right, so the foot is going to be coming down at us like this, and then she's going to be on her toes like that. So she's going to be sitting on a box, or her feet are going to be like on a box right here. So I want to have her toes kind of bent. So I'm going to kind of do a shape like that, similar to as if you were in high heels. And then we'll go like this. I still think I might have made this a little bit long, but let's kind of go here. And then I kind of want to have the shape like that for the front of the toe. So we're showing like the toes are bent. So I'm going to go like that to show the rest of the front of the toes. And that shape should sell that the foot's bent. It's quite long. Probably wouldn't be that long. So we could go like that. Reconnect. That's the power of digital right there. So we'll imagine that this is on a box like this. That's coming down, who knows how far. And then this is on a shorter box like this. Might be able to see some of the side plane, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. And then she's sitting on a box. That's coming down so far, right? And then you can start thinking about shadowing, all that kind of stuff. So her panty line will be somewhere right about here. We can shadow that in. We've already shadowed that leg in a little bit, but we can shadow it in more. We can put all this in shadow. And then this side here, this is still turning away from the light, so it can be a little bit in shadow. I haven't added, a ton of detail here. I've added some detail, but this is still rather, basic sketch. We added some anatomy detail, but we could add a lot more detail to this. That's where the leg comes in, the buttocks. So I'm going to kind of just separate the legs and buttocks with a nice shadow here. And then this inner thigh here is going to have its own shadow like that. The light might hit a little bit there. This form, treating it separate like that. See that? Separate forms. And then all that, we can just add all that shadow as one shadow. And then we might be able to have a little bit of shadow on this side and just a little bit on this bone. And not bone, but on the muscle, and the breast and all that kind of stuff you can add in shadow. Anyway, get the idea. So in the end, you get something like this here. And if you take more time to really think about it and draw it and get all the proportions right, because you're not teaching a video trying to go as fast as you can take your time more, you get something like this. right? I was also going to draw this, but I realized even if I did a more drawing of this type of style, it would still take a long time in real time. So nonetheless, the full, quality where I take my time drawing, and then I commentate over that and fast forward and stuff. Uh, so you get the same amount of information but much quicker. That will be in the actual lesson, and I might actually post that lesson too once I'm done with it. So I actually post the lesson that's going to be in the actual course, just for you guys to get an idea how that works. But nonetheless, I wanted to do something free for you guys, so there you have it. I recommend practicing, doing this. By the way, this is not from a photograph. This drawing is not based on a photograph. I did look at a couple of photographs I'm including in my course, and or actually, maybe not actually. Let me see. Hold on. I might have just looked at Google images that I couldn't find none that are really that similar, but to try to get like just how the lighting might look. But most of it's just based on imagination. For example, this is one of the closest ones I have. Oh, I'm not looking at the image now, but I can just go like this. So it kind of gives you some idea of like how some of that would be shadowed, but not exactly. So for example, on Google, I just put in female seated on side leg. It's hard to even know what to even search for. But I put female seated on side leg, and some of these are, somewhat similar, like this one here. And if you click on that, sometimes it'll give you other images that are similar. So this is pretty similar. You have to flip it the other way around. And that can give you an idea of like how the knees might look from certain angles. So if you see, well, no, this knee is coming more toward us. This one's like almost straight. So this is more of a side angle. But if you take the time, like maybe those, no, that's not quite right either. That's getting closer to how the knees are, but it's facing away instead of toward us. This one's pretty close, like how the knees kind of facing toward us, but it's a little bit too toward us, like facing down more. But you kind of see how this outside looks and get an idea of the anatomy there. So sometimes, just looking at a few references can help you get, like this knee is kind of coming more toward us though, but let's see here. Is there any other ones? That one might have been close if it was the full, if it showed the legs. This one's getting a little bit closer. Let's click on that one, see if that gives us other options. Too small though. Get the idea though. It can take a long time before you find something that's even similar. Kinda. This lower leg sort of, but it's bent more. You could try using DAZ Studio, but the problem with DAZ Studio is the anatomy is not correct, especially when legs are bent or elbows bent and stuff like that. Like it gives you the basic idea, the basic general like shapes. It's a little bit better than if you just had a mannequin, a wooden mannequin that gives you the basic shapes. So it does give a little more accurate information than that. But some of the information is just wrong, and you wouldn't know it's wrong unless you know your anatomy. Trying to see if we can find anything that's somewhat similar. Like what would that pose even be called? Like I said, usually if you click on a pose that's similar to what you're looking for, it gives you a lot of other similar things. Maybe female propped up, like female sitting lateral pose drawing. Maybe that would be female sitting lateral pose. Maybe that's a lot closer to what we're looking for. These are drawings, but maybe we can find. So sometimes that helps. So you find what something else is called that's similar. Female sitting lateral pose. See if that shows anything. Not really. Female seated on side, leaning on arm. Sometimes just trying to describe it more literally helps. No. Female sitting on side, propped up on arm. Some of these are, like that one was kind of like similar to what I said. I can't wait till the artificial intelligence is better at understanding what you're trying to ask for. Or you can just kind of like do a sketch and like just have Google look at that sketch. Like you just push your sketch or throw your sketch into a little folder or something, and then Google goes, oh, based on that sketch, I will find you similar poses, but actual, filter it out for physical models. Anyway, so that's the idea. I can't really find anything to help you guys out further, but yeah, until I make another video. All right, guys. Hey, if you enjoyed this video, do me a favor, smash the like button. I appreciate it. It only takes you a second to do. You didn't do it yet, just smash the like button. It only takes you a second. Just smash it for a second.